is the Vice President of the Renton Downtown Partnership, and Sim Stern from scratch, she has stood up this program. So the fact that you are here, we are in this location, we have all this great content to be able to share with you, is because of Sue. Next, I would like to introduce Kristen Switzer. She is the CEO of the Renton Downtown Partnership.
I'm the director. But
That's
we're still
what
having lots of right,
I
so
got it
we're-
right this time.
I'm the director of the Renton Downtown Partnership. I just want to take a minute in order to kind of give you guys some quick reminders. So a quick reminder is now is a really good time in this series of sessions to go ahead and make sure you have a business email address that you are using for all of your business activities. And that when you're responding to people, or if you need to respond to people and you don't know the answer, you just say, hey, I see this, I'm working on it, flag it, however you need to do that. And if you need to have a signature line, you want something cool with your logo, I can help you create that. You can send me an email. It's probably at the bottom of every paper in here. And I want you guys to be aware too, that while we conduct these workshops, we have representation from the city, we have city council people, we have people from economic development, we have our own board president here, we have a lot of faces that are kind of stopping by and watching. So I just want you guys to be aware that's happening too in the background, and we're not necessarily highlighting everybody, but that's happening. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm gonna turn it back to Sean, who I think is about to kick off into, okay, here we go.
All right, appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you're from the chamber, if you're from the city council, if you're from economic development, would you shoot your hand up, please? If you are here, let's give them a round of applause. Here's why. It's 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. They could be anywhere, but they're here in support of Renton small business. And that absolutely deserves our acknowledgement. So all of you, we appreciate you for being here. Thank you. All right. We've got some due dates coming up. Tonight, we're going to cover Business Plan Simplified, also known as Lean Canvas. You got that in an email. Somewhere at the bottom of your short stack of paperwork, you're going to find a hard copy. We're going to go through that this evening. You must turn this in by close of business 1 week from today. Email is preferred. Sue, can they bring a hard copy by, and where would they take that?
Question, probably to the office of the Downtown Partnership. They would have to text me first to make sure that I was there to receive it.
Okay, so if email is going to prove to be a challenge and you need to drop a hard copy off, reach out in some way to make sure that you can make arrangements. We don't want anyone to miss this deadline. We want to set you up for success. All right, now let's go ahead and go on this one right here. So if I'm feeling comfortable with an audience, I'll sometimes lead off with something a little bit humorous, and an old standby used to be, if you all showed up here tonight expecting a charismatic, handsome presenter, Brad Pitt couldn't be here, so you got me instead. But then I imagined Brad Pitt in an award show, and Brad Pitt steps up to the podium. He clears his throat, he says, "Hey Leo, how's it doing? You know, remember that one movie we did?" And he says, "Hey, if everyone expected some level of inspirational acceptance speech, Sean Palmer couldn't be here, so you guys got me. Hey, buddy, Angelina sent your best." That could happen. Now, my question to everybody here in the room is, I led off last week with how much experience do you have? And I said, well, my daughter's a college sophomore. So I've been dispensing great advice for 20 years, but professionally for 4. So these are my 2 go-tos. You've seen them. Who came in here having seen enough of my workshops that they already knew both of those? Okay, good. So I don't have to work on new material yet. All right, good to know. I needed that. All right, so your roadmap, whatever your roadmap is, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, this is probably going to be your business plan. If you are in business already, this might be your growth plan, your recovery plan. Anything that's going to get you from point A to point B, I promise you, having some level of planning ahead of time is going to be indispensable and a huge part of your success. That's why we're doing this. One Eastside Spark is actually a collaborative effort between 26 Eastside communities, including Renton, that helps with the economic development of our small business. And then finally, what is my role for my clients? I am the hub in your wheel. That is, if you have a question, I can be your very first point of contact, and I may not know every answer, but the spokes that I set you out on could be you talking to a real estate attorney, you talking to an expert in intellectual property, you talking to someone from the Renton Downtown Partnership or the Chamber, you talking to someone from the city about zoning or licensing, or whatever else. And then as you make your way out to the rim where you find your success, where the rubber meets the road, see this analogy works on a couple levels. And then you come back to the hub for that next action item to launch or grow your business. And typically, the more spokes we build in our wheel, the stronger it tends to be. That is my rule for you. All right, so tonight, business plan simplified. We're going to talk about problem, solution, fit. I encourage everyone to get that hard copy out so that you can follow along. We're going to talk about the differences between unfair advantage and unique value proposition. Key metrics, which we touched on a little bit last week. Cost structure and revenue streams, and then customer segments, then channels. Now, with all of these, problem, solution, fit is hyphenated. You can tell that gets jammed together. We use the word and, unfair advantage and unique value, cost structure and revenue streams. But this last one, customer segment, then channels. Why is it worded that way? And I'm going to open this up to the floor, and I'll take random answers even if they're wrong. But why do you think I use the word then and not the word and?
There's an order to it. There's got to be an order to understanding who your customer is and how you're going to reach them.
What's your first name?
Andrew.
Andrew, nailed it. I appreciate you. All right, so let's first talk about problem, solution, fit. The problem is not the problem for your business, lack of marketing, lack of space, lack of financial resources. The problem is through the lens of your customer. What problem does your business solve for them? And we want to get as detailed as we can. Now, who in here has already viewed at least one of the videos? They're narrated by a gentleman named Will Dable that talks about the different sections of Lean Canvas. All right, if you haven't already, I encourage you to do so. It is going to amplify any instruction you get here, and is going to help you understand the value of Lean Canvas, which is really a one-page summary of the main components of your business plan. Now, these are going to be graded. You have to turn it in, and they're going to be graded. Now, a couple of people who are in the competition are already clients of mine. And anyone who started this competition as a client, I'm going to recuse myself from grading their Lean Canvas. I think there could be the perception of a conflict. And even though I would like to think I'm entirely unbiased, I'm just going to remove that entirely. So one, it puts the pressure on them to make their Lean Canvases dialed in, because the only other person that's going to be grading it's going to be Sue. And I'm going to make sure that I'm not a factor in that. Now, we want to have a solution to this problem or these problems. So in a different video series, Will actually uses the example of Uber and the problems that it solves. It's not just an app, but it specifically solves pain points for taxi customers. So one of the pain points was, I don't know how close my driver is. I don't know if they're taking the most direct route. It can be awkward to pay in cash. And so different features of the Uber app and the Uber service directly answer and address those specific pain points that customers of taxis were experiencing. So you want to be able to describe your business in a way it solves specific pain points for your customer segment. And we're going to get deeper into customer segment, but even dentists, their customer segment is not just everybody, right? Everybody has teeth. 8 billion people on this planet, 32 adult teeth. Some third world countries in the deep south is going to bring that average down. I'm from Memphis, I can say that. But that doesn't mean that every person on the planet is the potential customer of a dentist, because you have to have the means to be able to pay for that service, and you have to find value in it. And that's who you are trying to identify for yourselves. So problem, solution, fit is all about solving specific pain points for a specific group of people. And we'll get more into customer segment here as we get further into the workshop. So why do walk-in clinics and emergency rooms both exist? You get the same service, you have the same type of staff at each one. Why do each exist? Again, I'm going to open this up to the floor. In the back, yes, please.
But there would be two different types of clients.
Okay. Expand on that for me, please.
Well, I don't know, let's see here. As an example, I had an emergency room visit myself on the 9th of January,
Okay,
and,
I recall from 2 weeks ago. Yes, sir.
and you just couldn't walk into an emergency room and just go like, hey, you need to see me right now. Like a whole criteria, and the whole team that we brought together to make that happen.
Okay,
Specifically for what I had dealt with.
okay.
And that's an example of like why you would not have that be things you could just walk into.
And you could have not received that level of urgency from a walk-in clinic.
Correct.
You could, if you went in the middle of the night, you may not have had the same operating hours as a walk-in clinic. So while you might be receiving the exact same service or something so similar that they're seen as interchangeable, and that's an important distinction when we're talking about our customer segments and we're talking about competition. Let's go to the next one. I'll draw a better example. So why do both barbecue and Thai restaurants exist? Yes, ma'am.
There's gonna be people that have like barbecue and people that like that.
Well,
Both like food.
Yeah, exactly. We're answering the same question. When it comes to what a barbecue restaurant does, it answers the question, we're hungry, now what? And the barbecue restaurant proprietor on this side of town, I think that their only competition is the barbecue restaurant on the other side of town. But in food service especially, who has a food service business right now? All right, tell me if I'm wrong. The food service industry is hyper competitive. Okay, all right, I'm seeing nods and smiles. You guys get it. So when we're answering the question, we're hungry, now what are all the different ways that we can answer that question for our family? It's Saturday, we just got home from running errands, we were at the outlet mall or wherever else, and now we're hungry, now what? What are the different ways we can answer that question besides, let's go out for barbecue? Yes, ma'am. Sure, can have it delivered. What else?
Vegetarian.
Okay, so vegetarian, so we can get a different genre of meal. What else?
Value.
I'm sorry,
Value.
what is that?
Right, the barbecue, they may have a promotion, so to the Thai restaurant.
But we're not speaking about value. We're just trying to answer the question. Now, the different ways we choose to answer the question can be driven by value. But we're looking at all the different competitors that we have. So we're gonna bring value back into it later, Sandra, I promise. But, okay, so right here at this table,
What is very full because I am very hungry. So I wanted to go to the place that the food is very young or faster than the other places.
okay, so we might place value on how quickly it can be prepared. But we're just talking about all the different competitors to the barbecue restaurant,
Anyone who serves food.
anyone who serves food.
Or a grocery store.
Or a grocery store, or your family could decide to fast, like all of these answer the question, we're hungry, now what? Some of y'all be like, my family would never do that, I get it. But when answering that question, every business who could potentially answer it in some way is a competitor, direct or indirect. There is a ton of competition out there. We do not do this in a vacuum. Even aspiring entrepreneurs who aren't with us tonight, someone is writing a business plan right now and plans to be your competition. All right, how about this? Toyota makes both the Corolla and the Tundra. Why make two? Why not just be really good at one thing? Okay, I heard you. Somebody expand on that, please.
One is the, for 4 or 5 people, and the other one is a truck, right?
Uh-huh. Still gets
Depends
you.
on what your needs are. You need a truck in your life, or you need, like, are you hauling?
Okay, all right, so let's do this. Let's take a Corolla, right? 4 doors. What's a 4-door luxury car? Okay, all right, so let's take a Mercedes sedan versus the Corolla, also a sedan. The way that those two products are similar far outweighs how they're different. All right, 4 doors, a trunk lid, an engine, 4 tires, a transmission, a way to steer it, the steering wheel's on the left-hand side. Like so many similarities, but there are actually very few distinct differences. So why are there 2 different sedans that you have to choose from?
There is two segments of clothing there. one that can pay the one and the other that one. Okay, the one is usually, the other is just the transportation.
Okay,
In terms of technical,
so the customer segment is different. What are features each of the customer segments are looking for that will help drive them toward one or the other? Yes, ma'am.
ability is spare parts.
Okay, so long-term cost and upkeep and maintenance,
Last forever.
that's gonna be part of it, right? So ongoing cost. Okay, what else?
That is.
A status symbol, okay, what else?
This is a perceived value.
Okay, affordability is going to be one, absolutely. And then, and yours was?
Perceived value.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm just trying to get from point A to, I just need to get to work. And I can get to work with a $50,000 car, 60, or I can get to work with a $40,000 car. The value for performing the same thing, the throughput is the same, getting to work. But if one comes at a lower cost, the equation says that one is actually more valuable. So what are some differences in those customer segments? Who is going for the Corolla versus the Mercedes? Other way.
Mom, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids.
Okay, so young families, right? Someone who's a little bit more price conscious, someone who needs the room, someone who doesn't need the status symbol as much, someone who doesn't have the level of discretionary income. Can you see how it does essentially the same thing, but it is really marketed and built towards two entirely different customer segments, looking to solve an entirely different problem? That is what the entrepreneur must do. Get it down to the point where I know what my customers look like, because when we know what they look like, we know where to find them. And when we know where to find them, we can effectively market to them. There are plenty of businesses, small, big, that have gone bankrupt because they haven't been able to correctly identify and correctly market to the right customer segment. All right, so unfair advantage and unique value proposition. I had a conversation with a client just last week about this. What do you feel, those of you who have looked at the videos or studied Lean Canvas at least a little bit, what do you feel the difference is? Unfair advantage compared to unique value?
The unfair advantage is like, if I am a movie theater, but I have a commercial with Kobe sitting in the theater and eating popcorn. And he was still here advertising for that Hollywood
Okay,
theater. No other Hollywood theater is getting that, you know, sponsorship.
okay, all right.
Unique value. Best popcorn in the world from that theater. We have the best movies and you can't get this popcorn from anywhere.
Not exactly. However, I'm gonna Eric, right? Okay, so I'm gonna take your popcorn example. The unfair advantage when it comes to popcorn is that they've got a popcorn machine that no one else has. So unfortunately, it's up on the board. The unfair advantage is internal. That is something that the company has that no one else does. That's their advantage. The unique value is what the customer receives. So we've got inward facing versus outward facing. The unfair advantage is that the way they train their staff, they're more efficient. The unfair advantage is they have a relationship with an NBA superstar and they can get that level of marketing that no one else can. The unique value proposition, having Kobe Bryant in your commercials, is I'm seeing a celebrity, I'm seeing a sports star, I'm seeing someone that I look up to, whose shoes I buy and whose games I follow, patronizing and advertising for just this theater. Yeah, that's something I'll follow along with. So your unfair advantage is something that the business has, but the unique value is what your customer sees or experiences. It's a little bit like this. It's like walking into a restaurant and either having a menu to choose from or an ingredients list. Everything that's in the kitchen is the unique, is the unfair advantage to the restaurant. We have ingredients no one else has. We have a way of cooking that no one else has. We have a chef that no one else has. But the unique value, that customer facing part, is what's on the menu. And I made this mistake. Outside of being a business advisor, I teach team building and leadership. And early on, I used to market myself as these are all the things I can do. I was sharing with my potential customers the ingredients list. They didn't care. And I didn't realize that they didn't care. It took me a little bit while to learn that. So instead, I created a menu that is the deliverables, what they experience. So now they know what they're looking for. They're looking for chicken parmesan, whatever the leadership and team building version of chicken parm is. So they know what they're looking for. That's what they want to relate to, not my Lego set in the back where I can build it for them. So your unique value is customer facing. That's what you market. That's what your customers see and what they're going to relate to. The way you achieve that is through your unfair advantage. Now, sometimes you just have one. Other times you have to create it. It's like flipping houses. There's a reason that people in the general public don't make tons of money flipping houses. Those where it works, where it's profitable, are somebody that has a skill set or has an in to make it profitable. I couldn't flip a house because I would have to outsource all that work. But the people who make it work are either an agent or a realtor themselves. They know how to lay carpet. They know how to do drywall. They paint. Their brother-in-law does something. They have a guy. They have a gal. They have all these unique advantages or unfair advantages that I don't have. That is their unfair advantage. Any question about unfair advantage versus unique value? If you're thinking something, 10 other people are thinking the same something. Yes, ma'am.
Might probably a little bit deep, but, so what about being first market? What if you are the first one to have done this?
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of what you do, you're proud of that, but it's also what your customers see, but they do not care because it may be a prototype and it may be needs some refinement.
Okay, so who thinks being first to market is an unfair advantage? And then I'm going to ask who thinks being first to market is the unique value. So who's my unfair advantage crowd?
Unfair advantage.
Okay, who's my unique value crowd? Ding, ding. Because to come to market first, you had to have an advantage that drove it. The business had to have an advantage to be first to market, which is what your customers see.
Wouldn't that be the problem? I mean, we don't have to answer that question.
Well, it really, no, because being first doesn't answer the problem. It's just the first to answer the problem.
Right, okay.
Whatever problem we are answering for whatever customer segment is. But to be first to market, the very first one is the result of the unfair advantage. And it's the unique value that the customer sees. So I appreciate the question. I absolutely do. Yes, ma'am.
Just to go back to that question, then would you say that the unfair advantage is the skill set that was required to be able to be first in this? Because I'm having a hard time connecting what then the view is of that.
Okay,
So
so
that's a similar situation.
I think that's an awesome follow-up question. What might the unfair advantage be? And I saw your hand up. I'm gonna come back to that, I promise. What might the unfair advantage be for the business to create the unique value of being first to market? What might one unfair advantage be, Sandra?
That many companies, that's already in business with that type of market, such as landscaping or sustainable landscaping. They are already, they all use gas powered engines, and so I being the first one to be all green and rented and sustainable, but yet my competition, it would be a big competition, unfair advantage. Their unfair advantage would be because they're doing it just as efficient or more efficient with their gas powered engines. And all the landscaping companies do so.
I'm gonna pause you. We're a little bit off track. That's not an unfair advantage. So for this hypothetical company that was first to market, what might their unfair advantage be? Yes, I'm gonna come to you first.
I mean, I feel like how the video, like the example the video gives for unfair advantage.
Okay.
Like Google Maps, right? So like Google wasn't like the first. I mean, everyone uses Google Maps, but I don't use anything else. And so Google wasn't necessarily the first. But what Google did was, okay, we're going to buy up all the satellite data, and then we're going to go in and we're going to install Amazon cars, and you take a picture of every single food, every single street. And so now they have all this technology that says you're not like you own all the mapping data. Like I don't know if anyone uses Apple Maps. sucks compared to Google Maps. We're like, Google Maps, that's their unfair advantage, that they just have the technology, that's the place to do it. And so that, like, they own that.
So they innovated and they
Yeah.
saw what needed to be done and they did it first. But they had to have that ambition and innovation in order to do that. Right? And Miss, what's your first name? Jennifer. So you're in your question, you gave one answer that the system or the process or the skill set of the workers, that could also be an answer. What's another one? Yes, ma'am, right here in blue.
I was thinking of when you apply the unfair advantage, could that relate to like your own experience?
It could.
Okay, so I would say your own experience and then, the big value proposition would be your customers could relate to, they could see that you have a lot in common with them and they can relate based on how you engage with them or the products and services you were presenting. Kind of your branding or however they see the outside of what you're presenting, they connect it to your true advantage, unfair advantage.
Yes, but we're coloring outside the lines a little bit. We're really trying to make the distinction between unfair advantage and that causing and creating that unique value. So what's another unfair advantage that the company might have that would cause them to be first to market, yes, sir?
I'm gonna use an example of our own company. We own Puget Sound Cider Company. And we make a heritage style cider, which is a more traditional cider, made with traditional cider apples. Most American cider companies, probably 98% of them, don't use these apples. So our cider is more like English and French cider. So we won over 60 awards for our cider in the last 3 years.
Sir, with all respects, I appreciate the commercial. I
Yeah,
do.
sorry.
What's your response to the question?
So because we have an unfair advantage, because we have access to these apples, that creates a value for our customers that they respect or they appreciate our product and buy our product.
Okay, so access to a specific resource, it could even be grandma's secret recipe. That might be the unfair advantage.
Mm.
What else? Eric, from you, and then we'll back over here.
Oh,
Andrew, I'm so sorry. That's my fault. My fault. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm thinking about it.
Calling you Eric through you. I get it.
No, you're fine. And an unfair advantage, what that would cause you to be first market, that could cause you to be first market, is having the skills, the time, and the head to build for the problem. If nobody has shoes, but I know how to make shoes and I go do it, then I'm the first to market because I had the time and the capacity to do so.
You had a special skill set that your competition didn't have. And then there was somewhere near along the windows. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say having a patent. Protect yourself.
Okay, so the intellectual property that your experience or the way you innovated something, right? There are game consoles, right? Sony's got PlayStation, Microsoft has Xbox. It's not the game console that has the intellectual property protection, the patents and the whatever else is. It's the specificity of what goes into it and the technology that goes into it. And so each one is trying to exploit their own, what's my word, unfair advantage. Okay, so it's not the copyright, but it is the intellectual property that manifested into a copyright. All right, I'm going to hold the rest of the responses respectfully. Let's look at key metrics, and we're going to do a little bit of a dive into this one because it's so incredibly important. So understanding the benchmarks that your business should be achieving helps you understand how healthy or unhealthy your business is. Now, first and foremost, it's going to come down to profitability. If you're not profitable, that's going to be a problem. But there are a lot of metrics that can help you uncover ailments in your business. Now, some of them are going to come from your financial statements, your profit and loss, your balance sheet. Those are the two main ones. And not enough small businesses, especially early on, take the time and make the investment to have a bookkeeper create good financial statements. This is your report card, right? If you've got kids, you wait for the end of the term and say, hey, let's see your report card. Oh, they don't do those. Let me just tell you how I think I did. No, you want to see the report card. You take your car in. I want to see the diagnostic. I want to see what the issue is. There's lots of indicators in our cars that tell us what the health of the car is, and we're paying attention to those. So why aren't we doing it with what's providing for our livelihood? There are also metrics that are going to be specific to your industry and business. So a construction business is going to have a different set of metrics than an accounting business, as far as what some of the financial ratios are. So let's look at a couple of examples. So your current ratio is current assets over current liabilities. Current means anything that can be converted to cash inside about 30 days. So cash in the bank, accounts receivable, I think prepaid lease payments also count as current, over bills that are due inside 30 days. And you want that number to be greater than 1. That is, you've got more coming in than you have going out. And if we're not over 1, that's going to be a problem. That means you're paying more in bills every single month than you are creating. And I promise you, just because you've got money in the bank and you're flush with cash does not necessitate profit. It is entirely different. I have watched businesses make a ton of money in revenue and go bankrupt because they didn't have cash flows. I watched businesses with a ton of money in the bank go bankrupt because they weren't actually making anything. They just kept taking out business loans or kept finding ways to put cash in, but there was no actual revenue that was being derived from sales. So all of these things are important, but as far as current ratio, it's a measure of stability. Now, there's probably about 17 or 18 of these ratios. I just took 4 of them. Net margin, net profit before taxes over sales. Bless you. Net profit before taxes, that is how much did we actually make and keep within the company before we paid taxes on it, over what was our total revenue, what was our total sales number. Now, for a lot of industries, this margin is 4.5%. It is a good benchmark. Now, others, a service-based industry that's got maybe a little bit less overhead, no inventory, we want that number to be higher. And there are some industries that a net profit margin of 2% is actually very healthy. Those are industries that thrive on volume, but it is possible. And yours is going to be very specific to the industry and business that you are in or are starting. Return on assets is net profit before taxes over assets. So your equipment, your inventory, the things that you have that you use to create business, what is the actual return on that? Are you maximizing the equipment that you have, or is it sitting idle 90% of the time? And sometimes right around 10 is a really good number to achieve. Some industries are going to be higher, some industries are going to be lower. Now you can look up, and starting right here at the library, you can look up what it is for your industry. KCLS has got a bevy of small business resources at your disposal. You just got to seek out a reference librarian and ask how to use them. But they're here and they're no cost to you. All right, let's look at inventory turnover. It's cost of goods sold over inventory, which is your average value of your inventory for whatever time frame we're working with. If it's over the course of an entire year, you'll take your 12-month ending inventories, the end of January, the end of February, the end of March. You'll take all 12 of those, you'll total them up, you'll divide by 12, that'll be your average, and you divide cost of goods sold into that. This is your working capital cycle metric. It helps you best understand if you're efficiently using your working capital. That is, in large part, either the credit you have been extended or the cash you have in your bank account. I'm going to pull this one apart a little bit because it's extremely valuable. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain the acronym for COG acronym?
Cost of goods sold. That is, if I'm making widgets, or let's see something real. Let's see who in here makes something. Apple cider. Okay. Now I am going to sell, I'm just going to make stuff up. I'm going to sell a vat of apple cider for $90. But the actual barrel, the apples, all the ingredients, the time that goes into it, none of my overhead expenses. We're not talking about the cost to keep the lights on. We're not talking about the leash. We're not talking about anything else other than what winds up in the barrel. What goes into producing one more unit of whatever we're doing. That's the cost of goods sold. Operating expenses account for all the stuff we have to pay for just to keep the lights on, for the glory of saying, I'm in business, look at me. The distinction is cost of goods sold goes up when you sell more. Your operating expenses are fixed if you sell 1 or 1 million. So I appreciate the clarification question. Cost of goods sold. Yes, ma'am.
For 1 year, so we have a studio, we are not selling. We're in the.
Okay.
I guess I'm kind of wondering how that.
So if you don't sell product, you have less inventory, right? This is going to affect you less. However, you are selling time. You do have a capacity. Okay, but let's pull this one apart a little bit more. So inventory turnover, cost of goods sold over inventory. And let's say we're a salon and we're just going to sell shampoo. And over the course of the entire year, we sell $10,000 worth of shampoo. This is revenue. This is gross sales. Nope, it's not. That's $10,000 worth of checks we wrote to our shampoo supplier, cost of goods sold. Okay, $10,000 in checks going out, and we carried an average inventory valued at $3,000. Which means our turnover ratio is 3 1/3 or 3.33. Now, what if over the course of the entire year we bought $10,000 worth of product? It's $833 a month. Yep, pretty sure my math is right. If we've got $800 a month going out, but we've got $3,000 in our storeroom, what does that tell us about how we're managing our inventory? And shut out wrong answers. It's okay.
Buying too much.
You're buying too much. Every single month, we're ordering $800 worth of stuff, and we've already got thousands of dollars of it in our storeroom that we haven't moved yet. We'll get into this more in just a minute. Now let's change one thing. Let's reduce the amount of inventory that we have and just forego an order for a month or two. And we're going to keep selling the exact same amount. Our turnover ratio now rises to 8.33, and the higher ratio is better. Higher ratios tend to mean strong sales. Now let's change one other thing. 10,000, 3,000, those were our original numbers. All we did was reduce the inventory we had in our storeroom. Let's change instead sales. We're going to do some personal selling a little bit more. So when we finish with Mrs. Henderson's foil, we're going to sell her the shampoo, and we're going to double our sales from 10,000 to 20. We're going to keep inventory the same. So we have a new turnover ratio of 6.67. Not as high as our 8.33. Hypothetically, what does this tell us? Because right now we are the entrepreneur and we're like, we can do one of two things. We can either push more product and up our sales, or we can just write one fewer check. We won't write a check. We won't place an order this month, and we'll drop the inventory that we have. We're going to do one of those two things. And based on our forecast, I think it's going to be affected this way. These would be our new ratios. Which one would you choose?
Wait,
What's that?
wait,
Why?
because you don't know how much you're going to sell in a single month, so why would you buy more before you sell it?
You have the right answer, but like 9th grade algebra, when we showed our work, it was just off by just a tiny bit. I appreciate the answer though, I do.
Yeah.
Why do we want to hold off on our next order? Numerically, the answer is up on the screen. Because which one is better? We want a higher ratio, right?
Yeah.
Which one gives us the higher ratio? This change right here, we can change one variable. We can either drop our inventory by not ordering this month, or we can create more sales. And based on how we think we're going to do with each, this tells us what we should do. Now, let's apply some dollars here. Or at least equate this to time. So in our very first change, our very first variable was to drop the level of inventory. It's $833 a month that we're spending on inventory, which means we're gonna turn our inventory over every 43 days. We place an order, 43 days later, essentially, we're gonna be sold out. You gotta carry some inventory because you never know the pace at what sales are gonna come, especially if you're selling more than one thing, products in different sizes, right? The medium t-shirts always sell out, the 3XLs are always left there. Versus selling out every 54 days with trying to up our sales, but keep our inventory level the same. So imagine we just made the decision, okay, we're just not gonna place the order. We're gonna bring our inventory level down. And that is an $833 check we didn't write this month. Because think about all the money that's tied up on our storeroom shelves in inventory that we don't have to purchase. We just freed up $833. How would you like to spend it?
Marketing.
Okay, we can up our marketing budget for a month. How else? I'm sorry, one more time, man? Oh, okay, so we want to be able to expand our suite of services. We want to be able to offer our customers more, so we're going to expand our business. Okay, what else? You just gifted yourself $833 for your business that you can spend any way you want. Because, I'm sorry, one more time? Sure, you can give your employees a bonus, raise morale, let them know that they're valued, try and reduce that employee turnover, right? Okay, that might work too. Save it. Absolutely, because you don't know what cyclical downturn might come. So having a little bit of extra cash, would you rather have cash or a bunch of bottles of shampoo? Cash, right? Right. So when we do the math, we're able to see what the financial health of our business is. But we can't get to this point if we're not capturing the data to begin with. So wherever you are, if you're not doing this yet, I encourage you to do so. This tells you so much, but you have to be able to capture the data in order to interpret it. And I will help you with the interpretation, but the business owner has to begin recording this. Yes, ma'am.
Where in the process you consider inflation, change of prices, all of that makes me think that I have to save more inventory in my business because these variables that are there.
Absolutely. All right, so let's spend a few minutes pulling inventory management apart. Now, there are reasons that you would want to keep inventory. Stock our shelves full. We're not going to sell out for 4 months and we know it. What's one of those reasons?
Supplier, and then like the supply chain issue.
Okay, we may not be able to get any more for a few months, so we don't want to run out. Let's stock up now. Excellent answer. Why else? Yes, sir.
Busy season's coming. Busy time is coming.
Okay, so we see increased demand. Roses at Valentine's Day. We're going to stock up early. I'm going to give my roses on January 29th. Right, that from the retail side, but we're going to stock up early so that we have it, and then we can realize a better markup. Okay, why else?
Supply chain, like the gas prices been going up, and so the supply chain also is going to be, you have to raise prices. Their prices are going to be raised on that from your stock, and so the cost of your stock from.
You anticipate rising prices, so you're going to stock up at the lower price. How might that backfire? Prices go down instead, and you've got overpriced inventory now. So we have to make sure that we're forecasting accurately. Yes, ma'am.
Lead time on production
Okay.
takes a while to make that thing.
Okay. So we want to have plenty of inventory because it's going to take us a while to work through it to create the finished product. Okay. Why else?
Order discounts,
I'm sorry.
quantity discounts.
Excellent. We can order a little bit at a time and pay the full wholesale price. And every time it's delivered, we're paying for delivery. But Michael, blow that up a little bit. Help us all better understand. What if we place bigger orders less frequently?
You get the product for cheaper, like if you buy a pallet of something.
Okay.
Opposed to just like a couple of units of it.
Okay,
And
so
less
being
in
able-
shipping.
Being able to buy in volume, save on shipping. Now, on average, your inventory is still gonna average out, right? Because we're not just buying more at a time, we're buying more at a time, but less frequently. But there might be a very good reason our storeroom is stocked full of stuff and we know we won't sell out for 4 months. For any of the reasons you listed, all completely valid business-driven reasons that you would want to carry inventory. So we have to do the math, but then we have to also understand that there's a reason that we would deviate from that. But here's the thing, the math comes first, not the deviation. We don't do something that might be completely off the rails and not understand why we're doing it. Now, there are some businesses, and I don't want to see a show of hands, you don't need that. But there are some businesses who have been extremely successful and they have no idea why. That makes it incredibly challenging to scale. It makes it incredibly challenging to grow. Or the very first hiccup they encounter, they aren't going to know how to sidestep that because they don't know why they were successful in the first place. Understanding the health of your business is absolutely imperative in being able to make good decisions going forward and having that longevity. All right, so now let's start looking at customer segments. Ooh, this is the fun stuff. All right, so customer segments, then channels. Customers described in terms of demographics. What does that mean?
Region.
Okay, that's one. What else might be a demographic for our customer segment? Yes, ma'am?
Age, gender.
Okay,
income.
okay, so we want to be able to statistically describe who we want to sell to. So what does your ideal customer look like? Now, we want detail, and here's why. When we're selling veterinary services, what might an important demographic or statistic point be for our customer segment? Pet owners, absolutely. Does it matter if they have a college education? Does it matter if they're a homeowner versus a renter?
Maybe,
Maybe. Why?
because some places don't like, some people don't want animals in there.
Okay, so maybe statistically, homeowners are more likely to have a pet than a non-homeowner, okay? Is age important when it comes to? Andrew, you're nodding your head. Why is age important?
Quality of life of the animal and the person owning it. If you're too old, possibly you can't take care of the animal. If you're too young in the hospital.
Okay, fair enough. And there's got to be some level of discretionary income to pay for whatever veterinary services you're offering, right? Now- Oh, no, you're right. You're not going to market it to children. So you're going to market to the adult. We're going to come back to how they market sugary cereals here in a few minutes. Now, here's the thing. Being college educated probably doesn't matter. Being a homeowner, probably doesn't matter. However, those things are indicative of other things that do matter, such as the level of discretionary income, such as the willingness to want to pay. There are some, I am an animal lover, and I know that there are some pet owners who would turn their animal into the animal shelter rather than get it the care that it needs. That exists, which means those people are not my customer segment. I want to target the ones that are willing and able to pay for the value that I'm providing, for the solution that I want to solve for them. See how it all comes back to that problem solution fit? And then finally, psychographics. How do your customers make their decisions? How do they respond to that trigger point, and what is it so that we can capitalize on it?
Educate them.
Less about education. Here's what I mean by that. Who in here is a parent? Okay, awesome. Me too. If you've got middle schoolers now, great, you can relate. They're gonna be middle schoolers eventually. You're at the dentist, and your middle schooler just had their 6-month checkup. They got their cleaning, and on your way out, it's as long as we're here, let's schedule the next 6-month cleaning. Saves me from calling back. Let's say that exact same parent, it's Friday night, you're watching Netflix and you bite down on an unpopped popcorn kernel. And it is just a brand new experience in pain. And you're like, I am not going to make it to Monday. I need an after hours dentist. This is my kingdom for a horse kind of moment. What are we seeking in the first situation after our middle schooler got their cleaning? What service are we seeking?
Medical services for your mouth.
Dentist. Okay. One word answer, dentist. What are we seeking in the second situation with Netflix and the popcorn? Dentist, still a dentist. The bottom line service that we're seeking is dental care. However, in the second one, our level of urgency, how much we're willing to pay, how far we're willing to drive, all changed because the situation has now changed. Our pain point is different. My specific problem is different. It's not the problem of needing a dentist. It's very specific, an after hours dentist, an after hours, an emergency room visit, an after hours or an emergency veterinarian, a 24-hour gym versus one that's not. So time can actually have a big impact on the problem we're solving for our customer segment. All right, I've got 7 minutes till. We're going to give you a 15-minute break. We're most of the way through this. We've got some extra add-on things that I'm going to be able to share with you, such as SWOT analysis in your elevator speech. But for now, I got 6:53. Take a real 15 that has us back at 8 minutes after the hour. Use the laboratory. It's back there in the middle on the far wall. Get a breath of fresh air, stretch your legs, but be back here in 15 minutes, please.
Yeah.
We've got a hard out time of 7:55. The library closes at 8. We want to give the library staff an opportunity to reset the space and let them get out of here and back to their families. I appreciate you. All right, so we talked about customer segment in terms of demographic. That is statistically, what does our ideal customer look like? Customer segment can be pluralized. You can have more than one customer segment. You must be able to define and describe each one. Your unique value proposition might be received differently across different customer segments. And then we want to be able to describe them in terms of how they make their decision. That is, when are they experiencing that pain point? I'll come to you in just a second, I promise. Is it on the morning commute to work? Is it on the weekend? Is it in the evening time? So think about, no one should ever do this, think about watching 24 hours straight of television and the different commercials you're going to see during different times of day. Daytime TV is full of vocational colleges and personal injury attorneys. You get into the late afternoon hour, when the news comes on, you got the afternoon talk shows, and now you're seeing commercials for household products. You get into prime time and you're seeing car dealerships, blockbuster movies, and the vacation package they want you to buy. And then late night TV is just full of nonsense. But each of those different industries, each of those businesses has pinpointed where they're going to find their customer segments so that they can effectively market. We're not selling Disney vacations at 11 on a Tuesday, 11 a.m. A personal injury attorney is not going to spend the money to advertise in prime time. That's not where their customer segment is. And so it is absolutely essential that we be able to understand and describe who our customer segment is. That's where marketing comes in. And then, ma'am, you had your hand up. Can I answer for you, please?
I just wanted to clarify, the segment is both the demographics and the physiographics.
Psychographics, yes, ma'am. We want to describe our customer segment or segments in both demographic and psychographic terms. So let's get into the channels. This is the marketing part. Look at all the, I brainstormed for about 40 seconds and there are so many more than just these. What jumps off the screen? What can we begin a short discussion on? This is not an inclusive list, I promise. Now, here's the thing, some of these channels are perfect for some businesses in here. Some of these are the exact opposite of what you want to do and you should steer clear. In the end, and the opposite is also true. So what jumps off as a little bit of a surprise, or pick one, let's discuss it. Okay, what are we looking at?
I'm seeing streaming services.
Okay, so streaming services, advertising on Hulu, this is the new form of cable television, right? So what's your question, Sandra?
I don't have a question, I'm just saying that the streaming services in my target range, my target demographic would be first-time home buyers, age group 30 to 40 years old. That's usually demographic for first-time home buyers.
Okay,
And streaming services, because on those streaming services on your cable, it's not really cable, but on that Roku or at the end, they have, the first-time home buyers, the real estate agent will tell the person that's buying a home to reference that streaming channel, and on that streaming channel has a lot of, what do you call it, resources for landscaping, handyman services, different things.
are you saying that a streaming service is or is not an effective channel for your business? Okay, okay, because it matches your target demographic?
Yes.
Okay, okay, what else? Wayne? Saw you doing movies. Yeah, do I have the first name right? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Wait.
I'm waiting at Starbucks.
Okay.
What kind of jumped out at me? As far as like jumping out, like grocery carts, like,
Okay,
yeah, like I know. It jumps out at me like for an opposite reason, like I tend not to pay much attention.
okay. So there is some advertising we see that really just kind of goes in one ear and out the other, right? Or in one eye socket and out the other. It blends in and we don't really notice it. Now, for some customer segments, that is absolutely true. It just doesn't trigger us. For other customer segments, it's incredibly effective. Notice the other channel I have right along with shopping carts. As human beings, studies have been done, our attention span is shorter than a goldfish. Males, let's own this, ours even less so. But you want to get a male's attention and have him stare at one thing for 15 straight seconds, you know where to put your advertisement. They do, absolutely they do. Okay. Yes, sir.
YouTube,
Okay, what about YouTube?
are you talking about having like your own YouTube channel for your business, or are you talking about ads on YouTube?
Both. So what is your first name?
Nick.
Nick. So Nick raised a great question. We've got some channels on here where we can have our own content, like Arik was talking about a little bit earlier, or we can have commercials on that channel that's not our organic post, or we can boost posts and pay to have inorganic social media advertising. For some businesses in here, that might be the right answer. For others of you, it's not, and it all depends upon where your customers are. If you're trying to, it's not up here, but if your demographic, your target audience includes women age, let's call it 20 to 37, and they're technologically savvy and they're active, what social media channels are you going to find them on? Not Facebook. A little bit of Instagram, but there's two specifically where you're going to find this demographic. Pinterest and Etsy. Yep, those two, Pinterest and Etsy. So see, that comes across as a little bit of a surprise, but that's the value in learning where they are. Sometimes those channels are like, really, they're there? I never would have thought of that. Okay, what else? In the very back, yes, ma'am, the very dark hair.
I'm surprised you don't have, or maybe I can't see it, a podcast. Like, I feel like specifically like our demographic, I guess for me, my experience, like the demographic, in my, I guess, parameters listen to a lot of podcasts, like reviewing, and those podcast views, like they're always, sharing ads, like the sponsors that are on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did say this is a non-inclusive list.
Oh, sorry.
So there are, if I had included every channel that exists just domestically, there would be words stacked on top of words on top of words, and it would just be a black screen because there would just be so much filling it. And that's part of the reason it becomes so imperative to identify the correct channels for you and your business based on who your customer segment is. There are going to be businesses where skywriting, hey, not going to work. But I'll tell you what, at the beginning of boating season, you know, one thing I'm always looking out for is the plane pulling the Geico banner, right? I'm just used to seeing it. And it works. There's a reason they do that. But I will bet you very few businesses in here would be able to capitalize by paying a pilot and a plane and for the fuel to tow a banner around, even if it was Seafair Sunday. That's just not probably most of you, maybe a couple of you that it would be different, but that's probably not the level of reach you're looking for or want to invest in. That's the kind of marketing you see on, you know, during golf tournaments, you know, for insurance companies and whatever else. You're not going to run and buy an insurance policy. It's just that behemoth of a company reminding you that they're there. The Hartford and Geico and whoever else is in the very back. Yes, sir. You had a question. Okay, what about them? Okay, so are you saying that as a channel or?
Because you're interacting with people, people always talking about something, you want to hear something,
okay, how can I get my veterinary services talked about in the beauty salon?
People come in, hey, I put this up in your walk shop, I put my flyer up. I have all right now, I'm trying to put forward something else that's on here. I've done music, I've promoted, I've MC'd, I've done a whole lot of stuff. I've been here 30 years now.
Okay. All right, so your business card or your trifold brochure or whatever collateral you have in certain businesses might be incredibly effective. Now, your tutoring service is probably going to be in different businesses than someone else's accounting service because the demographic of the customer segment is so entirely different. For some of you, getting widespread, that is flyers under car windshields, car windshield wipers, and just kind of mass marketing is going to be effective for some businesses, but it's going to need to be very pinpointed and very focused and purposeful for others of yours. Again, I'm going to circle back to knowing who your customer segment is. All right, one last one for this slide. Yes, ma'am, right here in the blue.
Sponsorships, I think it's really good because then not only are you dealing with your customers, but also who's in alignment with their message or what their product is, and you know their value system. Or so I think sponsorship can really go have a lot of longevity.
Okay, so give me an example if you would, please. This is a great discussion point.
Like for instance, like you're talking about the cars, right? I mean, like most times people will engage with each other, like another mom will tell another mom, yeah, oh, where'd you get this car? It's really nice. Okay, so we're speaking about sponsorships. All right, I live in Monroe. Monroe's got two things. We got a racetrack, got a prison. Not lying. It's the prison, not the racetrack that was built next to the high school. Actually, the prison came first. They purposely built the high school next to the prison. That's decision making where I live. All right, so let's take a look at the racetrack, right? And just like a high school baseball field outfield, where you got those really big signs that kind of line the fence. Let's say we're going to buy into one of those, and we got that level of exposure. What are some pros? What are some cons? What are some costs and benefits? Let's analyze this. What do you think a pro is of that level of sponsorship at that venue? Well, I'm going to see a show of hands, please. Let's start back here.
You're getting it in front of a wide array of people.
You got a lot of different people, right? Because who goes to the racetrack?
Families.
Okay, you see families, right? Who else?
Sports enthusiasts.
Sports enthusiasts, car enthusiasts, rednecks. I mean, again, I was born in Tennessee. I can say redneck. Okay, Casey?
getting them more tested in the community.
Okay, so sponsorship from the T-ball team to the outfield, to the racetrack. It's not just the advertising, but there's a level of community connectedness. We're paying for that, right? Okay, so what is another pro or another benefit of that level of sponsorship out there at Evergreen Speedway in Monroe? I'm gonna come right here.
It's passive.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, you don't have to manage it like if you were to do like a donation to an auction. You have to kind of follow that through like with some like community service business. But if I just put a big banner out somewhere, I pay that initial fee and it passively does the marketing where I don't have to.
Okay, so Arik said earlier, I'm posting 3 times a week and some people are posting more. That is to your social media. That is incredibly time intensive. But what you're saying is I could pay for this, leave it alone for a year and just let people visit my website, visit my, or call my phone number, whatever else, okay? What are some downsides to paying for that level of exposure? Yes, sir? It's not targeted, right? Because we talked about one of the benefits being you're reaching a wide swath of people. The downside is you're reaching and paying for a wide swath of people, okay? In the very back, yes, sir.
No critical analysis on the resources spent doing that.
Says who?
Just, if you're that broad spectrum in your advertising, that's what's gonna happen. Because you're not gonna be able to narrow who your customer base is.
Okay, but what you had said was you can't track the resources spent. Okay, but how can we? You've got a sign at Evergreen Speedway. How can we track the customers we get specifically from that sign? Yes, ma'am.
Put a specific offer or a code or something on there to mention billboard and get.
Okay, this QR code, which takes you to a specific website or subpage on our website, right? The original promotional code was, hey, if you visit this car dealership, tell them your favorite DJ sent you. Remember those? Okay, that was the original promotional code. Now we actually capture that level of data because when we go to a website or most of it is digital, or we visit somebody's or a business's social media page, it's entered this promotional code. And that promotional code is going to be different based on where you got it. Radio is going to be one code. Social media is going to be another one, specifically Facebook versus Instagram versus TikTok versus LinkedIn. Seeing it in a newspaper or print advertising is going to be another one. This magazine is going to be one versus this magazine is going to be another one, so that we can track our response rate for different channels. If we just throw $50,000 at our marketing budget and hit 10 different channels and our sales go up, what are we going to say? Oh, that was successful. Let's throw another $50,000 at it next quarter. Instead, if we're able to see these are the 3 most successful channels of the 10 we used, what are we going to do next quarter instead? Focus on the 3. Exactly. All right. We see it with these coffee kiosks, our punch card, right? Or we could. This is actually not captured nearly as much as it should be. But one, as the business, you are giving away 1 coffee for every 10 that you sell. So your price point has to be that you sell 10 and you actually are covering your cost for 11. You're not getting the coffee for free, number 11. You're prepaying it 10% at a time on your first 10 visits. But here's what I think all coffee kiosks should do. Use different colored cards. And you give a yellow card to everyone with a vehicle with a single occupant, and a green card to every vehicle with multiple occupants. And as the cards start coming back, you can track, oh, we sell way more coffees to single occupant vehicles, or we sell more coffee to female drivers than to male drivers, or we sell more coffee before 6 a.m. than we do for the entirety of the rest of the day. There's actually a lot of marketing research that can be captured in our own marketing. We just have to create that feedback loop. So we can have a QR code, we can have a specific promotion or deal. Call this, ask for 10% off. Say you saw us at Evergreen Speedway, a special phone number that's called, a special hashtag that's used. We can actually capture a lot of our marketing data within our marketing channel. All right, well, yes, ma'am.
So for these different channels, is there a more trusted source to figure out the demographics that they best reach? Like we are saying with YouTube or Etsy or something like that, how you're saying this demographic of people are going to be using Etsy. men are gonna be using a journal, of course, but, like radio versus LinkedIn, et cetera. Like, do they have something where you can get that? Just other than using-
If there's a salesperson attached, that if you're buying a radio spot, there's someone who's gonna push that, they're gonna give you that. Otherwise, you can look it up online, and if you're gonna look anything up on a web search, scroll past everything that says ad and look for at least 3 different sources. 2 main reasons. One, so that those sources can corroborate information you find on the other sources. That is, oh, this source said that 47% of all TikTok users are between the ages of 12 and 19. Oh, this other site says the same thing, and this other site doesn't say 47%, but it says 48. Okay, so we have a pretty tight operating range. Another reason is that not every single resource is going to give you all the same thing. You might get a tidbit of information on number 3 that weren't present on the first 2. And so I want you to be able to find those extra nuggets that are going to be part of your unfair advantage. Remember when the professor used to stomp when you were studying for the final because that was going to be on the test? Unfair advantage. Okay. Anything else on channels? Otherwise, there's some other stuff that we're going to be able to learn tonight. Yes, ma'am.
One person promotion, not in any of the years. This lady goes to the neighborhood, tell the other lady about the business, and the other tell the other. The restaurant, I eat in the
So we're talking about personal selling?
Yeah.
You're talking about canvassing the neighborhood?
Yeah, and that's.
Okay.
That's the challenge for the party.
It can be a channel. Remember, this is not an inclusive list. I took all of 45 seconds and just thought of everything I could and just regurgitated it onto the slide. Now that can work, but it's not going to work for a lot of industries. Door-to-door salesmen, some still exist. Kirby vacuums are still sold that way. There are some product lines that are sold door-to-door, but for the most part, you are going to find more efficiencies advertising in other ways and multiple other ways. That is, there's not a single channel for any business that is the one lone right answer. We're going to throw our entire marketing budget at TikTok. We're going to throw our entire marketing budget at radio spots. You're going to have to find a mix. Part of that reason is any day or any week or any season or any cycle, one is going to be more effective than another one. So it's like your 401k statement. You see that pie chart? That's diversification. So we want to diversify our marketing channels, not across 20, like we're throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, but we do want to diversify across the ones that we know were effective, but there are little ebbs and flows amongst them. All right, yes, ma'am.
Just real quick, I think what I heard you saying more than door-to-door sales people is word of mouth.
Okay.
I wonder, is word of mouth considered a channel or not?
It-
You can't really control that.
Word of mouth is a channel. However, for every business that says, oh, I'm going to build my business on referrals, that takes years. So it's not something that comes very fast. Do you know why? Because the people that come and patronize your business, that love your boba tea, that love your plans, that love your accounting services, they're going to pay you. They're going to take what you have to offer. They're going to thank you. And then guess what they're going to do? The other 100 things that they have to get done during the day that doesn't include building your business, not because they're malicious, not because they're not nice people, but because life happens and they have all these other things they're going to do where you're not top of mind anymore. It was a transaction. They got what they needed. They're moving on. Hey, get me on the backside, write a nice Yelp review, or, get me on Google Business or mention me on social media. Yep. The best of intentions. And rarely does that happen. That is a message you have to continue to drip onto your customer segment with the hopes that you get a 5% response rate.
But Sean, that can't apply to your hair. Because if someone see your hair,
It can apply to everybody, absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? Oh, where did you hear that?
What I'm saying is, for everyone that thinks word of mouth is immediately going to take off, it does take time to gain traction. Okay, yes, sir, in the back, then we're going to move on.
The most powerful word of mouth is publicity. If you can utilize it, you know how to use it.
Okay, publicity defined how?
If you're looking at, like I said, an interview in a magazine, if it's industry based, something like that,
Okay,
that can be very helpful.
it can be very helpful, but it's also a message you don't always control because someone else is writing content for you. And I have seen things be spun the way, or I've seen video be edited, or I've seen it be shortened down, where I was interviewed for 7 straight minutes, but they only used 15 seconds of the actual interview, and the soundbite doesn't actually represent what I'm doing. Yes, sir?
To add an anecdote that I watched one local business that I worked for about a decade ago, made half their year's business by having one product advertised on Oprah.
And, okay, so there we go. So in our marketing plan, let's just all write down, we're gonna get in good with Oprah. That is an unfair advantage, just like when Andrew was talking about Kobe Bryant is gonna market our stuff, or Ving Rhames, and all these different zombie movies. I don't know who he owes a favor to, but there's an unfair advantage that not everybody gets. That's what makes it an unfair advantage. All right. Let's move on to cost structure and revenue stream. So cost, we talked about this a little bit. Operating expenses plus your cost of goods sold. Your operating expenses is everything you got to pay for. Lease, insurance, salaried employees, your business license, any legal filing, anything, electricity, utility, security, payroll system, all the stuff that regardless of how many units you sell, 1 or 100 or 1,000,000, these costs exist every month, every quarter, every year. They're your operating or your fixed expenses. Your cost of goods sold is what goes into the unit of whatever you're selling. A unit of time selling accounting services, or that it takes to prepare a 1040. Widgets I'm selling, vats of ice cream I'm selling. Whatever goes into that, those raw materials. If I'm going to frame a house, it's all the 2x4s, it's the nails, it's the time. So we have to know what things cost so we know what our revenue needs to be. And Casey had this question. Casey, will you repeat the question you asked me during break, please?
Regarding,
We talked about pricing strategies very briefly.
yeah, we just spoke about, my train of thought.
I surprised you. It's my fault. not yours.
About, I have service.
We were talking about QVC.
QVC.
All right. So QVC and a lot of retailers work this way. If you're brick and mortar, or if you're on TV, or if you're online, a lot of those portals, and that is the channel, that distribution channel, won't charge a fixed cost, but they'll charge a commission against whatever it is that they're selling, which means for every unit their customer sells, who is now selling to someone else, they're going to make a little bit. Now, an important aspect of that is the vetting process. They can't bring on someone where demand for the product doesn't exist. But every time QVC invites someone in, every time Costco has a new vendor come in, they're going to make money on how much they sell of that product. QVC themselves makes money on the volume. Now, another way of doing that, QVC could say, hey, you can come on and pitch your product, and we don't care how many you sell, but you're going to pay us just for the access to this national audience. So what's the upside and downside if QVC decided to change their pricing model to something of a fixed cost? That is, you just pay us a $13,000 access fee, and we don't care how many you sell. What's the downside to QVC, and what's the upside? Yes, ma'am?
The downside would be if they take off like a rocket and now they've only got this flat fee versus a percentage off every unit. And the benefit would be that they're guaranteed.
Okay, so one upside is that, hey, we're gonna make $13,000 for every person that wants to pitch their product on our program. The downside is, if this is awesome, right? If this is OxyClean or the next derivative of OxyClean, there is a lot of money we could have made. That's an opportunity cost. But we know we're at least gonna make the 13. Okay, what else? Yes, ma'am.
If you're not vetting the products, then if you just have any and everything on TV, like people I watched it, like this is.
They're just peddling garbage. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a significant downside. QVC wants quality on their program. 1, to attract more quality. 2, so that their viewers understand, hey, we're going to see good stuff. We're going to turn into QVC. They turn that into an unfair advantage, because now everybody who wants to come on and pitch on QVC gets to say, well, we have this strong viewership because we only bring on quality products, quality services, quality vendors. So that's part of their unfair advantage, which then dovetails into the unique value of the viewership and the strength of their marketing on. All right. All right. Anything on lean canvas before we get into a little bit of SWOT analysis? Now, we touched on SWOT analysis 2 weeks ago, but we didn't have a slide, and a lot of you guys are visual learners. I am as well. So there's not a thing that we talked about 2 weeks ago that isn't going to be on a slide at some point, so you can see what we're also discussing. But before we get into this, is there anything on lean canvas I can answer or clarify for anybody in the room? And again, I'm going to remind you that if you're thinking something, there's 5 other people thinking the same something. Okay, you just made it. Okay, go ahead.
One thing, which is when we go to create our canvas, is there a way to type in the canvas? Like, or do you want us to just handwrite it neatly?
However you want to do it. I don't think the form is fillable, but here's the thing. You can recreate this any way you want to. It's less, and it's actually a really good question. I appreciate that.
You can
Sunday?
download a Word doc for free.
Okay.
Oh, Word doc, yes. Yeah, okay.
Or create your own or scan something. Yeah, the formatting, so long as it's legible, the formatting and being the exact same PDF we emailed you originally is less important than the content. Okay, so I appreciate the question. Well, hold on, Wayne.
So I had a question about the little risk iteration tab, like what is that? Like there's 3 different ones, product risk, customer risk.
If we didn't talk about it on the slides, if it's not specifically in the YouTube series, don't worry about that part. Yeah, it's important, but it's less important than the bulk of the main components of the lean canvas. It all winds up being important. There's not an unimportant part to planning for your business. Let's focus on the 9 main sections, okay, that I shared with you tonight. Ma'am, did you have a question?
I was just gonna talk about high level concept, and then did you not talk about it?
If it wasn't one of the bullet points up on the slide, we're gonna never mind it. You won't be graded on it. Again, not that omitting a part of your plan is something we're gonna advocate, but we're trying to keep this simple, set you up for success. We're gonna focus on the 9 things we discussed tonight. All right, who's ready for a little bit of SWOT analysis? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. This is a little bit like our unfair advantage, right? Strength and unfair advantage, those things are correlated. Your unfair advantage is going to be linked to a strength in some way and mitigating a weakness in some way. Your opportunities and threats are external. And here's where the analogy goes off the rails, because opportunities and threats aren't related to your unique value proposition. But these are things that might happen in the environment around you that we cannot control. But we can control how we prepare and respond to them. So the legislative environment, let's say they pass a law that says any imported goods, you now have to pay more for it because we're going to impose a tariff on everything from Mexico, China, and Belize. Or we're going to, whoever you're exporting to, you're trying to export to Canada, and Canada says, we're going to charge more for products entering from the US. You have no control over that. That was decided by a government agency that you don't even know and you'll never meet, but they just had a profound impact on your business. So understanding how you are going to respond if something like that happens, if that is a risk for you. If you are never going to export, probably not a big deal. So you want to identify the opportunities and threats that are going to be specific to you that are most likely to occur. Okay, what's another example of an opportunity or threat? Something that could happen that affects our business, but we don't have any control over it.
Unable to get certain supplies.
Okay, supply chain issues, absolutely. So see how that dovetails into how we manage our inventory. Okay, what was the other one I heard?
I said weather.
Okay, so for some businesses, absolutely. If I'm a dog walker, that could be affected by weather.
Good evening. If you have items to check out or you need a library card, please come to the checkout. You are using our computers and printers. Please finish, save, and print your work by closing time. Typically, stations turn off automatically at closing. The library will close in 20 minutes. Thank you for using the King County Library.
So what you're saying is a global pandemic that derails the entirety of our national economy? The chances of that are so slight, that's not gonna happen. Okay, what else? Consumer sentiment. What if some, there's a shift that goes from, oil dependent muscle cars to battery powered smaller cars? If you are producing those oil intensive or oil guzzling muscle cars, there's going to be less demand for your product, and had nothing to do with the quality of what you're doing. There was a shift in what consumers wanted. And it could be sustainable resources, it could be rayon versus cotton, it could be, I don't know, any number of things. Look at all the changes, however slight, in consumer sentiment, from the Big Mac being in a styrofoam container to now being in paperboard, from, well, we actually got away from huge giant Cadillacs and Lincolns that had V8s and guzzled a ton of gas. And now most of us operate something a little bit more economical, even if slightly. So changes in consumer sentiment can be huge. Any questions on SWOT analysis? And here's the thing, I'm gonna come to you in prompt. I know I set you up and you raised your hand and I said no. I'm gonna come back to you in a second, I promise. If you really want to have a valuable plan, show me more weaknesses than strengths and more threats than opportunities. That's you digging in, and the person who's going to read this, a potential partner, a key employee, a potential lender, the person reading that's gonna be like, oh, here's someone who's done their due diligence. They didn't gloss over the fact that things might go off the rails. Spoiler alert, things are going to go off the rails. We want to be able to be prepared for that. It's the business that isn't prepared that most often is unable to scale and unable to survive. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I think you kind of just answered it. I was wondering, did it have to be like opportunity and threat, like one answers the other, or is it just list of individual?
Excellent question. I appreciate it. And usually these are interdependent of each other. That is, strengths don't necessarily marry up to a weakness. In fact, usually the opposite. They're standalone.
That makes it much easier.
Give me 2 or 3 strengths. Give me 3 to 5 weaknesses. Give me 1, 2, 3 opportunities. I think it's going to be diminished competition. I think we have a dialed in customer segment that's going to be growing in population, right? Those are 2 awesome opportunities. Give me 3 or 4 threats. There was a hand in the back. Yes, ma'am.
So when you were saying that, like you said, you want to give more weaknesses and more threats, but when you're doing this analysis, are you also coming up with the ways to combat that?
That's a good point. We should also do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, if I start writing all the weaknesses, I'm like, maybe I should shut down this.
I appreciate the question. That's exactly why we do this. The strengths and the opportunities, we know why you want to start your business, right? We are the consummate do-it-yourselfers, and you had a great idea. We know why you think it's awesome. You convinced me that it's not a good idea, and then show me in the same business plan how you're going to make it a good idea. That's the value of a plan. I appreciate the question. Thank you. All right, let's talk about your elevator speech a little bit. So it's not a potential sale, and it's called an elevator speech or an elevator pitch because literally in the time you have in an elevator ride is how much time you have to get this out. It's very short. You are not going to make a sale. I'm selling farm equipment. I'm selling the best donut in the neighborhood. You're not going to have an invoice by the time the elevator reaches the 13th floor. Okay. What it is an opportunity to start a conversation. What is that? Let's pretend. Who has a book? We have a book. All right. You have a book? Awesome. All right. Okay. All right.
The iron.
That's a good book. What's your first name? What did you think of this book? Oh, but we had a conversation started. When we make statements, we don't invite a response, and that's all we're trying to get with our elevator pitch. Wayne, I just don't.
It is a good book.
Our elevator pitch is just about forming a connection. So we don't want to talk about what it is that we do. This is that list of ingredients in the kitchen. We want to talk about the menu, the value that we deliver. So again, when it comes to team building and leadership, if I were to say, oh, I teach team building and leadership, that's what I do. That person I'm talking to is immediately beginning to assess, do I need that? Nope, I don't. They begin to tune me out. They're like, hey, Shawn, it was really nice to meet you. Here's the handshake. Oh, this is my floor. It may or may not be their floor. They just want to get away from it. But they've already assessed if they need me or not, based on me saying, here's what I do. Instead, if I position it as, well, I work with organizations, big and small, that without adding any more human capital or financial resources, we make them more efficient and more productive. All I'm trying to do is get them to ask, how do you do that? That's it. That's all it takes. And I don't even have to answer the question right then, because remember, it's an elevator ride. We are 2/3 of the way to our floor. With your permission, can we exchange contact information? Not, do you have a card? May we exchange contact information? Fantastic. Here's my card. With your permission, can I follow up with you next week? Just via email? Because what you don't want to do is be the person that hands your card out, collects a whole bunch, and then puts everybody whose business card you collected on your email newsletter. And then they start wondering why, who in the heck is this person? And why am I receiving this? Unsubscribe. So that connection, that potential customer that you spoke with and started the beginnings of a connection with, you let go to waste. So ask them, with your permission, can I follow up with you next week? And then you send them an email. It was fantastic to meet you. I know it was brief. May I add you to our e-newsletter distribution list? And here's the thing. All we're trying to do is we're trying to find a way to be top of mind for them. So that once a month, they see our business logo. They see our name. So that 6 months down the road, someone, oh man, you know what? I met this guy once and I've been receiving his email newsletter. Let me forward you one, since we're having this conversation about team building and leadership. It's likely not going to be the person I met in the elevator, but I want his or her reach. And by managing that conversation and by managing that relationship, I have created a channel to allow that to happen. And way too often, I see it at networking events all the time. People exchange business cards, and more often than not, where do business cards wind up? In the circular file, in the recycling bin, in the whatever else. So it's not about giving someone your business card. They're not going to look through their junk drawer 3 months from now and be like, I met this one person at networking and I got to get a hold of them. They have plumb forgot, I promise. What you want to do is follow up with that and find a way by getting them to follow you on social media, by receiving your email newsletter, by something, so that once a month, once a week, however it is that's best for your business and your industry, that you remain top of mind for them. So that when it comes to word of mouth, when it comes to a referral, they're the one you think of, not your competitor who didn't follow up the right way. In the very back first.
For the exchange of contact information, could that be something along the lines of like a follow on social media for my business? I sell goods and products, so I'm not necessarily going to reach back out to a person that I met at a networking event unless it's to do like business for the behind the scenes. But if I'm engaging with like the customer and trying to, get a potential customer, my spiel is normally like, hey, give us a follow on Instagram or Facebook, and I normally have something with like my QR code on the back of it already, so they can scan it. Yeah.
No, here's why. The get me on the back end, when you get home, think about giving us a follow and write the Yelp review and the Google business and the whatever else. After the networking event, even though they were there with the same purpose that you were, they have forgotten. Just because we get busy. Get their contact information so that you can follow up with them. If you are putting the building of your business into their hands and them in their memory and them giving you a follow on the social media channel that you directed them to give you a follow on, you're going to lose more than you gain. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Can you clarify in this context?
May I have your attention, please? If you want a library card or have items to check out, please come to the checkout center now. If you are using our computer and printer, please note that turn the limitation turn off automatically.
You will need to leave and print your words. Please return library documents.
Whoop, hold on, this got me 2 weeks ago.
Tenga en cuenta que las situaciones de impresión se apagan automáticamente a la hora de checar. Debe guardar su trabajo antes de cerrar.
All right, as the announcement is wrapping up, you've got a feedback form somewhere in your very short stack of papers. We're gonna ask that you begin filling that out. All right, so now it's over. What can I clarify for you, please? I don't see value anywhere. Oh, introduce your value. So this is, remember, we're talking to someone who might be able to refer or become a customer. So this is the customer facing side of unfair advantage or unique value. Which one is customer facing? Unique value, absolutely. Okay. Does that clarify things for you? I appreciate the question. Thank you. All right, so we've got a hard out here coming up. We want to make sure we afford you time to fill out the feedback form. Please do that. Remember that a week from today via email, unless you make arrangements with Sue, your lean canvas is due. Not just turning it in, but having it correctly completed. It is going to be graded. This is part of what allows you to move forward and qualify for that field of 18. In the email Sue sent last Thursday, which would have been the 2nd, there was my email address. In fact, let's pull that up right now. Remember, I'm your hub, right? So if you've got questions about Lean Canvas or even anything outside of the pitch competition for your business, reach out to me. It's a very simple registration process. The Small Business Development Center offers confidential small business advising at no cost. So take advantage of that, please. I encourage you to do so. My schedule does fill up fast. So if you want help with Lean Canvas inside the next week, that may not be possible. That's why the value this evening and why I make sure I sent you the link to the YouTube series. You can look at that as many times as you need to in order to complete Lean Canvas and complete it correctly. The main thing I see people not doing correctly is they pose the problem from the business perspective and not the customer perspective. So problem solution fit is about solving a problem for your customer. All right, in our few minutes remaining, if you've got your feedback forms filled out, pass them to the front of your table.
Actually, Sean,
Go
go ahead and leave your feedback forms on the table and leave your name tags on the table and we will collect those. Everything else you should be taking home with you.
I mispronounced leave it on your table. I apologize. All right. In the few minutes we have remaining, as you are completing it, as you are gathering your things to exit smart and give the library staff a chance to clean up, what can I answer or clarify for you?
We have one more announcement.
After Kristen has her announcement.
You on your table or when you came in the front, there should be invite to our open house on Monday. We would encourage you to come. Our entire board, our committees will be there. It's a good opportunity to get involved with what's going on downtown so you know what's happening and to meet other business owners, even the ones we present to you. So we hope to see you there.
So Christian, when you say our open house, whose open house is that?
Renton Downtown Partnership is your source for this.
Yep.
All right, our next